Hi everyone, my name is Anthony James Hayes. You probably know me from Best from Brothers to Searching, and I'm so honored today that you meet me here. I want to talk about a little bit about my book. The first one I wrote was Journey of the Christians, From Dead Works to Living Faith, my very first book. It's about the story about me, pretty much going through things and how I overcome by the Word of God. And here is The New Kingdom with Liberty Man and Evil Stone. That's my second best book so far. And I want to take a little time to tell you about my second book mostly. The first one is about some children. They go to like an adventure. They go to see a new kingdom, the future, I guess you can say, of God and how He's going to restore the kingdom to Garden of Eden conditions. And they fight good and evil and light and darkness. So I encourage you to actually get these books. They're available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And then my second story, Liberty Man, a man who fights for freedom, and he takes off the chains of tyranny, of the kings of tyranny off of him. So he finally gets free, and I hope you find out his journey and how he got free and so on. And then my third book, The Evil Stone, a man who actually turned to the devil, or he sold his soul to the devil for a powerful magic stone. And he had the promise of ruling the world. So I hope you enjoy these books. They're available. And they're family friendly, and there's something you can learn with the Word of God. They're parables that you can teach your children and your grandchildren about. So I encourage you today to go to these places, and I hope you bless and you enjoy these books. Thank you.
You're about to embark on a journey through the written Word of God on subjects that deal with today. This is Brothers Just Searching.
How you doing, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Brothers Just Searching, where we talk about God's Word and current world events to educate and to edify believers of Jesus Christ. I'm Isaac, as always, with Brother Anthony and Brother Bo and Roban. Guys, what's going on today?
Nothing much. Just chilling, relaxing.
I didn't. I had to change a tire today.
Oh.
And yeah, you were there. Listen to the Cajun conservative and not even helping me out.
Yeah,
man.
I was making sure you were doing it right.
Bowen probably was
finger.
sleeping his head off. You know, he's enjoying vacation. Didn't even read the Bible today, probably. Huh?
Oh, I read this morning, though.
Read this morning before you went to sleep.
I read this morning for about 3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Oh, Boogie, he's gonna be smarter than us after a
I know
while.
we better watch him.
No, knowledge is going down and integrity is taken in.
Integrity, okay.
How you spell it?
I just like how y'all are patriotic tonight. You got the American flag, and then you got the eagle.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not worried. I don't have nothing on.
We thought it would be nice to be patriotic tonight so that people can see that we are truly Americans
That's right.
and not some false god from another country.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
At least we're showing our patriotic. You know, I seen a video earlier. I think I show
you showed
you
it to me. Mm-hmm.
of a softball game. The announcer went on it and said, "We're not going to do the national anthem. Let's play ball." All the fans said, "No, you're not." They went ahead and started singing the national anthem. I said, "That dude in the press box saying I'm a big dummy."
What did I do?
So it must have been a liberal from something. I don't know.
Oh, say, can you see?
No, please don't.
By the dawn there will be.
Disclaimer, folks. Rowan and Boogie do not sing all the time. But
And I forgot the rest.
I'm praising y'all for y'all entire there that y'all being patriotic. You don't even know the whole national anthem.
I don't
been a good
either.
while.
I don't even know the first 3 lines.
Well, that's all you know is the first three. Oh, can you see?
We're kind of like the Three Stooges, you know. We could do Shakespeare, not to be, and that's all they remember.
Anyway, so Brother Dan, you couldn't make it tonight, guys. Man, I was pretty bummed out about that.
I forgot about that.
Well, he had a lot going on last week. Brother Dan is a guest here. Mm-hmm. But Brother Daniel couldn't make it because he had to preach last Wednesday night. Well, first off, he had to study for this podcast for Monday night.
Oh,
then
wow.
he had to minister on Wednesday night. Then he had to minister on Sunday. That dude was booked out.
Man, poor guy, you gotta get some rest.
Sometime,
Gotta
rest
relax
in
your
my eyes.
brain. Man, he probably had to take 3 or 4 aspirins, probably, poor fella.
I know. With this week, man, I had to take I had to take some aspirin.
That's just about a bottle of Tylenol.
Well, when you're reading about Greek Empire, man, you're like, and look, hey, that's the thing. We're about to get into our topic, but it was kind of funny with this. Look, doing the research, you type in Babylonian Empire, all the history comes up. Mm-hmm. You type up Medo-Persian Empire, all the history comes up. Mm-hmm. But when you type in the Grecian Empire, they give you Asias. They give you the Dark Ages. They give you the Ancients. I'm like, what Greek we're talking about? And then that's when I said, it looks all Greek to me.
Yeah, I know. Shoot. I was watching the Three Stooges one day, and they were doing that. They were reading Greek. And they looked at Mo, and he was like, don't tell me it sounds Greek to me.
But yeah, so...
But they messed up Greece, though. They took over a ship and they were turning around.
Well, spirituality. The Three Stooges. They might be calling us that after this episode.
We're really getting spiritual, ain't we?
Yeah, man. Hey, we're talking about Greek.
Yeah, fiction. So, but anyway, just a quick reminder: if you have not yet, please hit that subscribe button. Also, go look us up on Facebook, Brothers Just Searching. And you can check out our YouTube channel, Brothers Just Searching Podcast, where we have at least we started with this series, putting on it, but we do have other episodes that are on the podcast platforms. You can go listen to that on Facebook. Also, our excuse me. Also, our website, brothersjustsearching.wordpress.com. Also, go ahead and like the churches that are involved with this ministry. New Beginnings Fellowship Church in Bro Bridge, and also Coteau Holmes Fellowship in St. Martinville. So we need to get Daddy back on. We get Brandon all the time. We got to get Dad back on.
Yeah, we got to balance this thing out.
Yeah, we got to balance it out. Make it like we don't only favor one pastor,
Yeah.
The thing of it is, when we vote to have pastors on, me and Bowen wins all the time because we both go to New Beginnings and you go to Coteau Holmes.
That's right.
And then when Daniel comes here, you super majority. You're done.
You said that's all right. I go to the true church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I go to the true church. I got salvation.
We go to a dog church?
Yeah, you're lost. You're dark. You're gone. You're heretics. You're going to hell.
Well, Brother Brandon's listening. I know it. We're not going to talk about Romans tonight. Obeying authority.
You're outside grace. You're outside the church.
Now, 2 fine churches that help out. We also got some good news. We were looking at some equipment for our YouTube channel. And, a lot of people don't realize, but, they look at this video, they see us in headphones and mics, and they that looks nice. Mm-hmm. But nice costs us a lot of money sometimes.
Oh, yes.
And we're not a ministry that go ahead and ask for money. We believe God. If somebody wants to donate to us, we tell them to email us at brothersjustsearchingpodcast@gmail.com or message us on Facebook, and we'll give instructions on how they can give if they want to give. And we don't keep none of the money. We always put it towards ministry. And LB, that's standing behind the cameras and looking at the soundboard, he, we got together and we started talking. We want this to look as we know we're not professionals, but we want it to look professional,
right?
And we had a good friend come help us out last week. That video was awesome.
Oh yeah,
and we started looking at some equipment. Our good friend gave us some equipment. We was thinking about spending like $700 to start off with. At first, no. Oh, higher? Man, you trying to break me.
Man.
Anyway, so it was a lot of money. Let's just say it was a lot of money. And we only going to be spending less than half of what we was going to go ahead and spend. So God has blessed us, and we're getting some new equipment in here very shortly. We might even make Bowen look good.
Well, that'd be tough.
Let's not go that direction too quick, because you don't want to make a liar out of yourself.
And we don't have all that time.
I said try. I didn't say will.
Okay, good.
And we don't have all that time. You
don't have all that technology either.
No, I mean it'll take ages. We just don't have that time.
No, not age or centuries.
We got a lot of things to do.
And look, we're planning on like our 100 episode for podcasting and everything. We're going to do something special. We're going to talk about our time and everything like that. We've already discussed that, but you know, we wanted the audio to sound good because it was only on audio platforms. Now that we're in video, we're going to a whole new direction.
Yeah.
And it's time consuming, but I think it's worth it. You know, God has blessed just not the Cajun Conservative and Brothers Just Searching, but every area of our ministries. So God is blessing us, and we just want to further His kingdom. And that's, you know, if we put Him first and we rely on the Holy Spirit, we don't know where this is going to take off. But it's let's see what God has in store.
But you know, a lot of people don't realize, like, when you come to entertainment, one way or another, it costs us money. You know, even if you go the cheap way, it still costs us money compared to other people. But it actually, you'd be surprised. Like, you're watching a movie, you enjoy that movie, but if you really would study how much work goes into it, how much money, man, you never see a movie the same again.
Right, and everybody looks at big ministries like, look, Jimmy Swagger Ministries, a lot of people look at that, how they get the angles and everything, and these are not $1,000 cameras or $10. These are $50,000-$60,000 cameras. You know that camera is more worth than some cars. And that's why when they ask for money, you know, a lot of people, oh, these big ministries, all they do is ask for money. Well, if they didn't, they wouldn't survive. Right. And we survive without asking. And like I said, we have people that donated to us. Not much, but we don't keep none of it. You know, every time we need some, the money's there for the ministry. So we're excited. God's got stuff good going on.
That's good. People better start donating. You know, we have to take them upside down, flip them upside down, and get all their change. You know.
Well,
we don't want to chase them all, Boogie.
Yeah, they're gonna start calling us prosperity gospel ministers. That's an insult.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Anyway, all right. So we're running a little long, but that's okay. We're having a good time in the Lord. We're gonna go ahead and we've talked about Babylon. We talked about the Medes and the Persians, and we're talking about the statue of Daniel. A little bit of recap. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, couldn't remember the dream, and told his wise men, guys, y'all got to tell me the interpretation of the dream. The wise men, what is the dream? They said, he said, I don't remember. They said, well, you snooze, you lose, king. We can't tell you the interpretation without knowing the dream. He said, well, all right, y'all snooze, y'all lose. You're going to die. And he was about to give him the axe of the good axe chop. Yep. Anyway, so Daniel come along, and Daniel said, listen, king, give me a couple of days. I'll pray, and we'll see what God has in store. And he said, y'all give you one night. You know, one night's better than nothing. So him and his buddies from Israel started praying, and God just didn't give him the interpretation. He showed him the whole dream. And Daniel went ahead and revealed that to Nebuchadnezzar. And we are studying that statue. What did Nebuchadnezzar see? We know that the head of gold is Nebuchadnezzar, talking about the Babylonian Empire. Then we also had the arms and the chest of silver. So we talked about that last week. So this week we're going to talk about the thighs and the stomach area of the brass, which is the Grecian Empire. This portion of the statue that Nebuchadnezzar saw in his dream symbolized the Grecian Empire under Alexander the Great. The Grecian Empire began with a new thought about government, democracy, and it blew as fresh wind over the world of that day. Greek is also mentioned as a leopard in Daniel chapter 7. Then chapter 7 verse 6, after this I behold, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon his back is 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. This was the Grecian Empire as well. Also, it is in Daniel chapter 8, the he-goat that fought the ram. When the ram and the he-goat came together to fight, it broke off the little horn and the big horn, which was the Medes and the Persian Empire. And it also, in chapter 8, talks about the Medo-Persian and Greek war. So we're going to go ahead and discuss a little bit of Greece here. Greece is kind of weird, guys. Like I said, when I first started looking into all this about the Grecian Empire, and I just said a few minutes ago, you started looking up, you looked at Babylon, or the Babylonian Empire, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, then you look up the Archimedes empires, or the Medes and Persian Empire. Their history is pretty straightforward. Hey, it's happened, at 538 BC. They fell in 523 BC. This happened in between. You had Cyrus, Darius, Xerxes, and so forth. Greece is a little different. A lot of, and this is according to evolution, but they say that the Grecian people were originally from 3 million years ago, or give or take. That's not true. The world ain't that old. But you have timelines. You like right now, I'm looking at the ancient Greece. Refers to the years of 700 to 480 BC. This is not the classic Greek times, where the classic age of Greece was 480 to 423 BC. That was the time of the Medo-Persian Wars. The Papa, help me out, Boogie. The war with the Spartans and the Athens. That's how we're gonna refer.
Oh yeah, the Spartan War. We can call
the Spartan War, and then Alexander the Great. So in this time,
Phoenician War.
The Phoenician War.
But
yes.
we call it that. The Spartan Wars. We call it.
We're simple-minded folks. We know what that is.
Yeah.
So Greece was, and a lot of people look at Greece and they're saying, well, this is the time when Alexander the Great happened, and that was really the height of their power, was Alexander the Great. The ancient Greeks started the birth of the city-state, which it was that they had leaders, but it was more of if you were in high class, hey, you were a leader. If you were poor, you were just a peasant.
Right.
And they started these states of like Athens. Athens was the
place of democracy, and
that's coming later on. But Athens was a city state, like the Athens people. That's why you always had war. But they made these states where it was run by a city. And the majority of people, and after a while, it became tyrants and stuff of that nature. But I believe it's in 507 BC. If I can get the numbers right here, might be on my other. Yes, in 507 BC, they had a guy come up. He defeated the last tyrant of Athens, and his name. It was a nobleman, Cleises had overthrown the last of the tyrants and devised a new system of citizen self-government that he called democracies. Like I said, I know I'm chopping these words, but anyway,
it means democracy.
It means democracy. We get our word democracy, and it was males that were over 18 years old was able to join the assembly that he created, and he started this democracy system where it was ruled by the people. And a lot of people think this is where our form of government started from. And we're going to get to Alexander the Great in a couple of minutes. But, Athens, guys, and y'all can chime in on this, Athens was really the center of Greece at the time.
Pretty much, yeah.
You had others. You had Spartans. You had Athens. You had the Corinth. You had all these city-states. And what was the bad thing about it before Alexander the Great got... And this is what made Alexander the Great and his dad, Philip II... so impact in Greece. All these city-states, they were one country made into states like the United States are. You have Louisiana, you got Texas, Alabama, Georgia, you have Florida, Illinois, and all these other places. We're separate states and have small governments. But the difference with them, they didn't have an overall big government to control the.
Right.
Our system of government, in my opinion, will be better because you have the federal government watching over the state governments, but you also have the state governments watching over the federal governments.
Right.
So it keeps it in balance. They didn't do that. We're one country, but we all are separate people. And because of that, you had war before even the Persian-Grecian War and all these wars that were during Persia. They were fighting each other. Athens would always fight with Spartan. They didn't like Spartan. Other states did not like Maccabees. Not Maccabees. Where Alexander the Great was located from.
The Macedonians.
Macedonia. They were considered barbarians. They were like, hey, y'all in the outskirts of Greece. Y'all not even Greece. Y'all not Greek people. And they were. They were. They were relying of that. So, but the Greeks, in that they had that state of city-states where they had their own little country,
their own army,
and stuff. But they had tyrants that had one person ruling, and after a while, they just look. We're going to start this new form of government where the people decide. Now, I heard someone else, and we're going to talk about that too. someone told me when the Persian War started, where I read it, the reason they did that, Darius the Great. Now, we talked about Darius last week. Darius was the third or fourth king of the Persian Empire.
The third. Yeah.
They don't believe he was a son of Cyrus. They believe he was a far distant relative, like he was the last one to the throne. And he went ahead and tried to go ahead and invade Greece.
No, that wasn't Darius. That was Xerxes.
No, Xerxes was after him. Remember, Darius started.
Yeah, that's
Darius
right.
started in 498 BC. Well, yeah, it was led by the Athens and the Spartans. The Greek city-states were engaged in a great war with the Persian Empire at the beginning of the 5th century BC in 498 BC. And that's when Darius was, I believe Darius was a part of that. Xerxes went ahead and lead into a lot more. But I'm trying to think my train of thought. There's a lot of history here we're trying to cover in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But Darius heard that Athens made this new form of government, which was the people. Darius and the king said, we give them religious freedoms, we'll give them freedoms, but they can't override in this form of government where people are in charge. Oh no, we're in trouble.
Right. Well, you gotta understand though, like like you said, the Greeks, and we believe in democracy in our republic. That's where our founding fathers. I mean, our founding fathers base a lot of their constitution and government on the Bible, but it's
Rome did too. Rome used Greece as a model.
Yeah, they were. They took a lot of Greek gods. They just renamed them to Roman names. They were influenced by Greece a lot. But what I'm saying is our form of government comes a lot from the Romans and Greeks as well. Congress, or we get a Senate. That's all comes from them. But the thing is, though, the people. It was the age where people had the power, and stuff like that. And like you said, the king that took away the power of the kings. The Grecians, they had Athens did. Sparta had kings and stuff like that, but I think majority of the other Greek cities.
Well, Athens was really Athens in this age period. It was really the start of, like you said, democracy, where the people rule. The people can outvote somebody. They can go ahead and do that. But the Persians, and we said this last week, we're going to cross-reference a lot of our Persian history and this one. Darius at the time said, no, we're not going to have that. I think they attacked. In 498, Greek forces
destroyed Athens.
Yeah, no, they went ahead and attacked the Persian city of Sardis.
Okay,
which is right. I think it's right on the mainland of Lydia.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you got to realize these Athens and these Spartans were like, hey, we making this new government. Let's expand our borders. Let's expand, and that's how a lot of people talk about kingdoms and taking over empires. Hitler tried doing it. As Hitler gained territory, he said, this is mine. That's how it was back in the day. If the Persians wanted land, they would go ahead and attack the land, and they would take it over. You either pay us tributes and serve under us, or you die.
You're talking about on the Asia Minor, right? That's what you're talking about. When
I believe it says Sardis, the city of Sardis, the Persian city of Sardis. In 490, the Persian king sent a naval expedition across the Aegean to attack the Athens troops in the battle of Martha.
I know you're talking about now. Yeah, that was in Greece. I'm sorry, my bad.
Man, I'm going to tell you, I pay tribute to a lot of those professors that do this for a living.
Ooh, yeah.
Because they got to remember a lot of weird names. they must have to go to an English class. But despite the resounding Athens, Athens had a victory. The Persians did not give up, because in 480 BC, the new Persian king, which is Xerxes, sent a massive army across the Hellespont and Peloponnese, where 60 Persian troops defeated 5,000 Greeks in the Battle of Peloponnese, where King, what's the king from the 300?
Lydius
of Spartan was famously killed, and a year after that, the Greeks defeated the Persians for good at the Battle of Salamis. So now that's history right here, because we talked about the 300, which is one of my favorite stories. The 300 was the bodyguard of the king, and they went ahead and they heard the Persians were coming. Xerxes was coming to destroy Athens, and Athens was destroyed. It was burned down.
But they gave them time for the Athens
He gave
to
all the
escape.
Athens to leave. But this is where the story of the 300 fits in. These Spartans defeated
Yes.
they were defeating the Persians.
They was holding them
Now
back.
there were other Greeks there. There was about 5,000 Greeks. But I learned something about the Greeks. They were small in numbers, but boy, they were tough.
Yes, yes. Well, the thing about the Greeks were, and another thing too, they had better, they had more fighting skills. They were more trained.
Oh, the Spartans.
Yeah.
The Spartans started training.
The Greeks in general, yeah.
The Spartans started training at the age of 7 to fight. Now, that's Joseph's age.
Yeah.
My son, he's 6. Next year, that means we'll have to send him off to the camp.
The military camp.
And I just strong.
Yeah.
And look, very smart people as well.
Oh,
because
yes.
during this time of the Greek and Persian War, they developed a ship, and I can't remember the name of the ship.
Yeah.
But it would have 60-some people on top and 40-some people at the bottom, in the middle like 50, and with rowers.
Oh, wow.
And they said that these ships were like missiles. If they hit a ship, it was sinking.
Oh, yeah.
Because they had a brass point.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
And when that brass point would hit the ship and bust the ship and sink the ship.
Oh, yeah.
There was one battle that happened, I think like 2,000 or 3,000 Persians died, and almost all of the Greeks survived.
Wow.
And that was an Athens general. I can't think of his name right now, but he designed the ships and he did all that. So they were very smart people. The Greeks weren't dumb. They were very smart.
Them and the Romans, they were good at medicine and everything. Matter of fact, I think that's where we get some of our stuff today, medicine wise, and some things today,
right,
from the Greeks and Greeks and Romans and stuff like that.
So the Greeks and Persian War lasted for a few years, a few decades, and until I think Xerxes left and his son tried to advance to...
No, well, after Xerxes, they never tried to invade Greece again. After that, they were like, we're done. We're finished. We're never going back and try to invade the country again. But what was bad was it hurt them still later, because the Greeks wanted revenge for what happened to Athens when they burned Athens and stuff. So that's one of the reasons why they believe Alexander the Great and these Greeks.
Well, the Persians would unite them. Would unite the Greeks. The Greeks could be in a war against two of their countries, but if they heard the Persians were coming, they all united. Hey, let's forget our problems. We're going to go ahead and attack the Persians.
Well, back then, a lot of countries did that. Like India, for example, they were or tribes, a bunch of tribes fought each other, any country. But when they heard a foreign invader came or somebody was coming to take over the land, they all united. They put away their differences and they became one big army. So it was not just the Greeks. A lot of cultures did that back then. Tribes, a lot of them did that. They all joined together. They weren't enemy. Well, when the enemy was gone, then they all fought each other again.
Right.
So,
well, and that lasted for a few years, because the Grecian-Persian War lasted, I don't have the dates in front of me, but it was for a while. But then you had the war against the Athens and the Spartans. And like I said, I can't think of the name right now, but that war was between them two groups of Greeks. That lasted for years. So I believe Spartan evidently took over Athens for a time.
Or they were battling each other.
They were battle. Well, in that battle, and I had to.
But what happened was that hurt them in the long run, because they were battling each other so much that they ended up coming weak. Both countries, Athens, the city of Athens, and Sparta. They were all fighting each other, where it got to the point where they were fighting each other so much they came weak.
Yeah, and also they made leagues. It's like fantasy football. I play fantasy football. We have leagues all over the place.
Yeah,
and we don't fight against each league, but some people do that. They go ahead and they make these games and they have leagues or whatever, or clubs, and they fight against each other. And that's what Greece did. These city-states would go ahead and attack another city-state which had a league, and especially with the war between the Athens and the Spartans, one was good on land, the other was good
on sea.
And the only reason the Athens fell to Spartan was because the king that was brilliant to fight on the sea died. Or the king or the leader, and they elected another leader that said, well, I want to fight them on the ground. And that was one of the mistakes he made. He just it's like you playing a card game and you have a bad hand, but somebody says, hey, well, I have a good hand. I'm going to give you my hand. I'm going to take your hand.
Right.
It helped out the Spartans, and the Spartans defeated. But like you said, that made them weak, which we're going to get into Alexander the Great now because all the civil wars, and even after Alexander the Great, the civil wars started up again, and that's what really destroyed Greece as a whole again. But Alexander the Great, his daddy was Philip II, which was the king of Macedon, and they were outcast Greece. They didn't want, they didn't want them. They thought they were barbarians because they fought the barbarians. It was funny how these Greeks, all the other Greeks were fighting with each other. These were fighting the barbarians from the north. And the Philip said, look, I want to go ahead and take over Greece. Well, Philip had a son, and his name was Alexander the Third. And like he said, like Booker said, he was born in Pella, Macedonia, in 556 BC to King Philip II and Queen Alypius. And if you read history, that woman was a bad woman. That must have been Jezebel's niece or something.
Oh, she was involved.
She was bad.
She was involved with all kind of strange Greek cults and stuff like that. She had a lot of weird stuff. Yeah.
So Philip II was he was an impressive military man in his own right. He turned Macedonia, a region of the northern part of Greece Peninsula, into a force to be reckoned with, and he was fantastic about fantasized about conquering the massive Persian Empire. So this wasn't just. A lot of people think, well, Alexander the Great had a vision to take over Persia. Not necessarily, it was him, but at the same time, it was his daddy.
Yeah.
Which, if his daddy wasn't assassinated when they did, he probably would have took over a lot of Persia for Alexander the Great.
Oh yeah, Alexander would have been one of his generals or one of his top generals fighting aside with him.
Right, but Bible prophecy had to be fulfilled too.
And matter of fact, you talked about Daniel earlier. There's something I want to kind of read.
Okay.
That kind of gets my people's attention. This is a book I had. Matter of fact, I had this when I was in homeschool. Matter of fact, this book's old, but it's pretty interesting. It's history, but it's Christian based. It says, just as Daniel had prophesied some 2 centuries before Alexander the Great charged into battle like a goat with a single powerful horn, trampling everyone in his path. And you can read that in Daniel chapter 5, verse 7 and 12. So that kind of goes what
we talked about earlier.
Yeah. And so, and the thing is, the thing about Alexander the Great, and I think we're going to get to that, when he was born, he was like, they had weird stuff going on. They claimed that lightning struck a temple, and there was like signs that he was special, But,
well, I read I heard a documentary this week about it, and one was that Philip desperately wanted a son. Apparently, he didn't have a son. Then he did have a son later on, Philip III. But he was really wanting a son, and when he married I can't think of her name now, Apophis, whatever her name was, the lady, and they of course, they did everything to have a baby, but legend says that Zeus came down.
Yeah, Zeus.
And Zeus came into a form of a snake, and he had relationships with the woman, and that's where Alexander the Great came from. That's why she thought he was a god.
Right.
Well, Zeus was upset about that because Philip claimed it was his son, and he didn't claim it was Zeus's son.
Yeah.
So because of that, the gods were upset. That's why they say Philip lost his eye.
Yeah, I remember.
Like you said, it was a lot of strange. Even Philip said he had dreams about Alexander the Great. Now we know what that was, though, because let's dig into a little bit, because I think it's in Daniel 7. Either Daniel 7 or Daniel 9, where Gabriel was coming down, and Gabriel said, "Listen, I would have been here sooner, but the forces of Persia, which was a demonic spirit, was fighting." And of course, these legends, a lot of people don't realize that about Greece, because we didn't dive into that part. They're gods.
Oh yeah.
We was talking before the show how nasty a lot of their beliefs were.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that, and the reason the Greeks were so filthy, they loved the bodies and they loved it.
Yeah, they were in sports and body.
Well, the Olympics started from that. I think it started in like 800 BC. The Olympics started. That was one thing that united Greece a lot of times was the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
They could be fighting and it's like countries today. You know, the Tokyo Olympics are going on right now. I'm not watching it because of political reasons, but the Tokyo Olympics are going on. You know, you could have wars going on, but wars all of a sudden stop for a small period of time to have these Olympics.
Right.
So, but the Olympics was there, but their beliefs in gods was
bizarre,
was weird, you know, and a lot of that followed over to the Roman Empire as well. But their beliefs, and look, we're gonna say it right now. Alexander the Great was a bisexual because of beliefs into his gods. The Greeks were very intelligent, but had very filthy minds as well.
Oh yeah, we're kind of like today. You know, we're deep in more as a society. We're deep in more into Roman and Greek culture, where it's the worship of the body and yeah.
Well, the Greeks are. Let's go ahead. Like I remember a while back, we talked about Wonder Woman. I watched the first Wonder Woman movie. And they were talking about Diana being a god, and she had to fight her uncle, whatever. And I'm watching this, and what I know, I'm like, that's all Greek mythology.
Yes.
And
Marvel,
and it's not not Marvel. That was DC.
DC, yeah, you're right.
Marvel's more of a mysticism.
Yeah.
Not mysticism.
Norse mythology.
Norse mythology, which is not as well as that either. So, Bowen, we all talking, man. Where you at?
Y'all doing great. Go ahead, keep talking.
But anyway,
we want to make sure people know you're still here. You know,
I'm here, buddy.
But we want to make it clear that Daniel saw all this. Daniel prophesied.
Well, that's why I was coming to the point. The demonic spirits that were leading Greece at that time wanted to go ahead and make sure
that everything was going
everything was going to place, but to disprove God's word. Because Daniel, like I said, Daniel prophesied this and we've said it multiple times.
And of course, God allowed those demon spirits to do that to fulfill His plan.
A lot of people don't realize that too. The devil's going to make a counterfeit of what God does.
Sure, right.
So God shows Daniel all this, and you go, well, you know, I'm going to show people that Alexander the Great is going to be a great man.
He was kind of like Jesus. Like when Jesus was...
They were trying, yeah.
Yeah, like Jesus had an earthly mother, but a heavenly father. And you find that in a lot in Greek mythology that they were called demigods. They were called. That means they had an earthly father, an earthly mother, but they had a goddess mother, a goddess father, kind of like a Hercules.
Well, Alexander the Great, a lot of people don't realize Alexander the Great was taught from a young age, you are the sons of a god.
Yeah, you had an earthly mother and a heavenly father.
Yeah.
So,
right?
Yeah. That's why some people think when they look at Christianity and they mock with Jesus, they say, well, Jesus is no different than the Greek mythologies. You know, he had an earthly mother, but he had a heavenly father. And so they try to call, like they say, he's a demigod like the Greeks. And so that's what people who hate the Bible, or they use that to mock Christianity. Right. They say Jesus is no different, you know. So, but they don't realize, like you said, the devil imitates what God does, you know.
I'm going to share something with y'all. I've been reading. That's all I've been doing. That's all I've been letting y'all talk. I've been reading. Yeah. But we're going to look at some things that I think y'all kind of looked over. But it's not to bring y'all back. But I just want to look at a couple of things. Alexander the Great, when he was born, he was a young boy. Yeah. But at the age of 16, age of 16 years old, he started learning to go to battle with his father.
That's right.
At the age of 16.
That's right.
Well, there's an interesting story before that, though, too.
All right, but anyhow, at that age, he started going to war with his dad. He started fighting battles. Now, by the time he hit the age of 20, he became king. He became the ruler of Macedonia.
That's right.
At that time, he took the throne. But from Macedonia, you see, in Macedonia, when he was there, somewhere in that time, his father was killed.
Yeah, he died.
His father was killed by somebody within. They were having some kind of get together, from what I understand.
Yes.
They were having some kind of party or something, and somebody came out from the crowd and killed his father.
Well, no. We found out about that because remember when you brought that up to me? Because we see each other on Sundays and we talk a little bit about what we're going to talk. That wasn't somebody from the crowd. That was part of his bodyguard.
Yeah, his bodyguard.
See, that's remember. If there's a lot of theories on who killed Philip.
Yeah, I know, but Philip was murdered.
Yeah, Philip was murdered. There's no doubt about that. What happened was, which Alexander the Great, and there's a lot of history in that Alexander the Great and them came back from a battle, which was they were fighting the Athens
They fought the Athens and they fought somebody else.
They fought another Greek state.
The Athens and the Phoenicians.
Phoenicians. So, which that's a story too, because I found that out, and when I heard that.
There were a bunch of homosexuals.
Yeah, there was a bunch of homosexuals, and the reason they did that was because if you was a homosexual, you had to join the military with your lover, because they believed if you had a lover involved, you would fight harder, which they did. But Philip and Alexander the Great, which they made a great military plan. They went ahead and advanced while they were fighting. Alexander the Great took his cavalry members, went around, defeated them from the side, and they crushed them from within. So, but after they come back, Philip decided to divorce. I don't know why he did it, but political reasons. But he divorced his wife, which was Alexander the Great's mother. Got married again and was having a child. What started the exile process because Alexander the Great was exiled because at the wedding feast, a general stood up, which was related now to King Philip. Said, "Long live the king and queen, and bless the lineage of the king." Well, and I'm not trying to say nothing bad, but Alexander the Great said, "What you think I am, a bastard?"
Right.
And that really upset. He took his cup and threw it at the general. Well, Philip got mad because he was drunk and said, "You know what? I'm going to kill you." Well, when he went to go and attack Alexander the Great, he fell over. Alexander the Great said, "This is the one that's going to lead y'all to Persia. He can't even get to one couch to the next." He insulted his daddy, so his daddy told him to get out of the kingdom. Well, when Philip II's baby was born, Philip III, he said, "Look, I'm gonna revoke all exiles. Anybody that wants to come back to the kingdom can come." Well, Alexander the Great came, and that's when he really wanted Alexander the Great to come back because he was about to advance to Persia. So what they were doing is they was having a party on their surge to Persia. This is where it comes to the part of theories that Alexander the Great's mother probably had a plot to do with it. She had access to the bodyguards or whatnot because of Alexander the Great. And she really wanted Alexander the Great to go ahead and be this known person to take over Persia.
And the king.
So she paid, some people believe that she paid the bodyguard to go ahead and kill Philip. He ran off, but the rest of the bodyguard got to him and said, you're done. So I don't know how much she paid him, but it wasn't that worth it.
Yeah, and of course it's a theory, because nobody knows exactly, what happened. Pretty much. I mean, that's the theory.
And that's the thing.
And it could have happened because back then that happened a lot.
Right. Yeah. But now there was another interesting story too. It showed how smart Alexander the Great was. There was a horse that his father bought.
I think it was Hippolytus. I think Penipolis. I think it was
That's
called.
sad. I can say the horse's name right, but I can't say the human being's name right.
Matter of fact, he actually named when he died. He actually named the city after.
Right.
I think it was in India or somewhere.
Nobody could tame it out of the king's horsemen. So Alexander the Great said, "Look, Dad, if I go ahead and not tame it, can I have it?" And they all laughed at him. Alexander the Great noticed the horse was looking at the shadow. He turned it from the sun, jumped on it, rode it, and they're like, "Yeah, you can have the horse."
And the famous statement, his father looked at him and said, "My son, Macedonia is too small for you.
It's too small for you, right?
You have to conquer a bigger kingdom than this for your ambitions."
His dad, that's where that part. Remember remember we was talking on Sunday? I said I think that he was assassinated, but it was one of his bodyguards, so it wasn't even somebody from the.
And you also got to realize that the Persian king was given money for years to try to stop Philip. So some people think the Persians might have something to do with that too. That's just a theory.
They say also too that when Philip died, I know we're talking about King Philip a lot. King Philip said that he united Greece as well. He really didn't unite Greece. He went ahead and overtook Greece,
and he gave him some freedoms. And he told him this is John.
He did what Darius did. He did what Cyrus and Darius did. Listen,
he gave him tolerance.
We're gonna now. He didn't.
But I'm gonna share something with y'all about Greece now. Is it Greece or Greek? But I just read that on here. I was reading that.
Yeah.
It's either Greece or Greek. But they had a war. It was like a civil war they had.
Oh.
And they had a war, and it's to be a Republican.
Yeah, a republic system.
A Republican system. I
Right.
read that on here. I saw it. I read it for myself. But I don't remember who they fought against. But they did fight a war. And they wanted to be a Republican. I should have kept it on here.
I think that was Athens. That was
I don't
before.
know if it was Athens.
But see, that's why Athens. That's why the Greeks were upset though too. It's like America today. I use that example of 9/11. Unfortunately, that was a bad day in American history. But before 9/11, and I was real young, but I remember the country was split like a lot now. Was split. Nobody could agree on nothing, and I don't blame him. Hillary Clinton was in the Senate. You can't agree with nothing with Hillary Clinton, but Hillary they were in the Senate, and when the Twin Towers hit, do you know like how America united? And that's what was going on with Philip. Philip was traveling through all these states, taking over these Greek states, and didn't Philip run it like a monarchy book, like he's what the king says goes.
Yeah, well, what he told them, he was like, y'all can keep your religion. What he wanted really to do, he wanted to unite them to fight against Persia. Because he knew Macedon in itself, even great like their military was, he knew that they couldn't beat the Persians on their own. So he was trying to get as many Persians as he could. Greeks with him as much as he could. So that was one of his main purposes why he wanted to really. It's not because I want to be a dog over these people, or I want to be the big mouse on top of the cheese, kind of speaking. He was like, I want to attack Greece, and I need every soldier I can or every supply I can to fight against Greece. So most people believe that was his really big, that was his big motive, pretty much. One of the reasons,
So we're going to go ahead and continue on. Bowden, you have any last thoughts before we continue on?
All right, you
Great. Just wanted to make sure. In 336 BC is when Philip died. He was assassinated by his bodyguard, and at the age of 20, Alexander claimed the Macedonian throne, which was pretty neat in the story itself too. Right when he died, I don't know if there's no theories that Alexander the Great was part of this.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun. I think a lot of his friends were though. His friend, right when Philip died, he heard him lift Alexander's hand and said, "Long live King Alexander!"
Yes.
And he took the throne and he killed all his rivals. It's funny how that all works.
Yeah.
So he went ahead and he quenched at the time after Philip died.
There was a revolt.
Athens, Spartans, and all of them said, "Oh, well, since he died, we can take over the country, and we can run ourselves again." And Alexander the Great was having a problem because he started in the north. He went to the north to take care of that. Well, it started in the south, and he said, "Look." He said, "I'm not going to deal with this." He went to one city, burned it to the ground, destroyed everything, killed everybody. And everybody was like, "Nah, we're not going to deal with this dude no more."
Yeah, because they thought he was young, and they thought, well, because he's young, we can, put one over his eye. And, and he proved him that, hey, I'm a little wiser than y'all thought,
Right.
Because he was raised under a great philosopher, Aristotle. So, and Aristotle taught him how to analyze everything and stuff. So he was
wasn't it him that said too when Philip told him, "Look, I want him to come to battle with me." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Well, he's still too young." He said, "Look, you got to learn things in life from the battlefield too." Yeah,
exactly. Well, they said that Philip taught him war. His mama taught him religion, and he taught him philosophy and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting. That was one of the greatest minds in that time. So he had a lot of good upbringing. He had a good education upbringing in war and stuff.
Right.
He was a prince. He had the best of everything.
Well, I think it was 2 years after that Alexander the Great started his conquest of Persia. Okay, he eliminated all the revolts. Mm-hmm. He said, "Now let's get going." He had a small army, but he passed over into Lydia, which is you think about it was really
Asia Minor.
Yeah, Asia Minor. Which is pretty neat, and we talked about this at length. I think we talked about it last week as well. Alexander the Great, in taking over Persia, did it very smart. Mm-hmm. He didn't go into the heart of Persia. Mm-hmm. He went on the coastline. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people say, well, why would you think Alexander the Great would do that? Alexander the Great did that because it stopped their flow of supplies. Mm-hmm. Look, when he went ahead and took over Gaza, Jerusalem, Egypt is where Persia got all their wheat from.
That's right. It was the breadbasket.
It was their breadbasket. So he took over, and then he went ahead and started marching towards to Persia. And his first battle, in 333 BC, Alexander the Great and his men encountered a massive Persian army led by King Darius III. A lot of people get that mixed, and we talked about that last week. A lot of people mistake Darius or Darius for one king, but there was three kings in that. And
well, you got to remember the first battle when he passed over when he passed into Greece and to Asia, because most people got to realize if you look on the map of Turkey, on the edge of it, that was all Greek colonies. People don't realize that. So that's one of the reasons why he did that too. He was forming a base head, and he had with Greek colonies there. So they were pretty much more open to him because of the wars year later.
And the ones that weren't open to him really paid off. Gods and Tyrant.
Yeah.
Which that is a pretty interesting. He stayed there for like 4 months. Tyra, I think.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. It took.
It was a little island off of the coast of Jordan.
No.
It wasn't Jordan?
It was in by Lebanon.
Lebanon.
Yeah.
And Alexander the Great did this all the time. He would go to the city and say, "Look, I'm giving you diplomacy. Y'all can either serve the kingdom of Greece,
right,
or y'all can die."
Right.
Well, that city, he sent his diplomats there. They told him, well, this is our answer. They killed the diplomats and shouted to Alexander the Great and threw their bodies over the wall.
And that really got him mad.
That got Alexander the Great pretty upset. So what he did was he built. This is how smart this man was. He built a causeway. Then he had a special. There's a series on history talking about engineering an empire. And he put this thing where you walk right up to it.
It was a tower. It was a
tower, and they breached the walls, and they killed everyone in that city except a few, and then they put them into slavery.
And it was the ones that went in the temple because he was into gods. He was very superstitious. He believed in gods and goddesses. So he didn't say, "I'm gonna kill the people who are in the temple." So
right.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, but the thing is, though, when he crossed over to Asia Minor, the first battle he actually fought, and it was not actually with Darius at first, because Darius at first, when they heard that he crossed over to the hemisphere, or he crossed over the river, they were like, "Oh, he's a young kid. We're just gonna send a few soldiers out." Darius was not even
there. No,
not even there. So he sent his best generals and the Greek
this
mercenaries.
is the one when he fought in Turkey. That's what they were talking about.
It was by the river. The Grecian River. He fought there, and what happened was, they thought, "Oh, we're gonna beat him easily," and then he beat them. He fought them, so they ran off, and he actually killed Greek mercenaries that were there. He said, "Well, you betrayed your own country. You get paid for gold," so he kills them, and so that was the first battle he ever fought with the Persians, and then. Then Darius got the word that, hey, they fought us, they beat us. He said, well, next time I'm going to meet Alexander the Great. And that was the first. Now, the first battle with him was in Syria, and it was called Issue. Yeah, we know.
Issue. Yeah, in Turkey.
Yeah, Syria.
Well, that's Turkey around that area.
Yeah, Syria,
this
Turkey.
This says that they fought in the town of...
yeah, it was around Syria or something like that.
In southern Turkey, that's what it says.
Yeah, or Syria. It was close.
Alexander the Great were greatly outnumbered in men, but not in experience or in determination for revenge to claim Persia great wealth. Much of it is plundered.
But we see what he did with both battles. Because see, that was the first one he did with Darius. But the second battle, he did the same thing. And this is the famous thing that Alexander the Great did. You see, people don't realize, when I was watching the old movie of Alexander the Great one day, and in the movie, he was saying that, if you cut off the head of an animal or something, the whole body falls with it. So they said that's why we have to concentrate of getting Darius. Because they said we can fight this army, we can fight this one, but why not go after the head? If you go after the king...
He also took advantage of the time, because Persia was in civil war, too, around that time.
Persia was fighting different. Like in Egypt, they were fighting a rebellion there, and there was a few rebellions.
Yeah, but remember we talked about last week with Persia, too. how many assassinations happened to kings?
Oh, and inside the government.
Inside the government. So their government was falling apart.
Yeah,
and Alexander the Great really just stepped in to fill a void that was going. Because also, though, too, at that time, because of Xerxes' great battle with Greece, he had to refund his empire, so he taxed them, and apparently they didn't take out the taxes.
Yeah.
So
well, a lot of cities.
It kind of hurt. It kind of hurt Persia.
Yeah, it helped Alexander the Great, because when he went to cities, a lot of them didn't even fight him. You know, they were like, hey, because we rather have you, because the Persians had us heavy tribute. So some of them about 90% of them just opened their gates to him. And there were some places he like Egypt. He just went to Egypt and they didn't fight him at all.
They made him pharaoh right away.
Yeah. They were like, "Oh, you're a liberator. We don't make you king and pharaoh, a god." And so so some of them, it was only really Tyre and Gaza that really fought him. Really.
Right.
Jerusalem, the priests opened the gate. We talked about it. Was last week? We talked about when the Jerusalem opened the gates up to him, and the priests came to him, said the Daniel prophecy that he was going to destroy the Persian Empire. We talked about it last week.
Yep.
So a lot of them just opened their gates up to him.
Well, Alexander apparently won the battle of Issue. I'm tongue-tied tonight.
Issue, and then the last battle he fought was at Ganela.
Well, that was the one of 3 battles that he fought with Darius.
Yeah, that was
Darius the third, because Darius fled that time.
Yeah, he fled both cases.
He fled again, and then the last time when he fled, they was like, we're done with you, and his bodyguards killed him.
Yes.
Now, at that time, Greece, they were in there for like 8 years. They were fighting this war to take over the Persian Empire, which shows the might of the Persian Empire. Yeah,
it was big and huge. Yeah.
And they pushed all the way to the capital city where they burned it. But Alexander the Great, Darius' bodyguards killed him, brought him to Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great said, well, that was an insult, because a king was supposed to kill a king to take over the empire.
That's right.
And that didn't fit well with Alexander the Great. From then on, now, granted, it took years for Persia to take over Babylon.
Right.
This only happened in 8 years with Greece.
Right.
Alexander the Great, that's why they called him a leopard in Daniel chapter 7.
Yeah, with the wings. Because
he
was so swift.
He was swift. Bowen, you got any points on us, my brother?
Not really.
But the thing is, though, he conquered so fast.
He was quick.
I mean, and then it still took him a little while. You found out he was what? Well, you said, Bo, when he was 25?
No, he was 20.
He was 20 when he took over.
He was 20 when he became king, but the first few battles that he won, he won like 4 or 5 battles by the time he was 25 years old.
So that's what I'm saying. But the time, and then he was really, when he 30 when he was died, so he still conquered.
But the thing is, this is what you got to look at. No, he was 33 years old.
33.
No, he was 33.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. He was in his 30s.
All right. Yeah. He was king at 20 years old. Within a 10-year span, he conquered more than any other king that ever ran.
Nobody in history that we know
Nobody in history ever conquered what he conquered.
Not even
and
the
by
Roman
the time
Empire.
he conquered what he had conquered, he was going into India. And he did conquer part of India.
He conquered some of it.
He conquered some of it. He didn't conquer the whole thing, but he did conquer a little part of that India.
The Hyspus River, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting story, too, because after Darius died, he went to Hyspus River.
And then you got to look at how Alexander the Great fought his battles.
Yeah.
He always faced them head on, because I watched four audios on Alexander the Great. He had all his men lined up with the spears. They had spears in their hands. He had them lined up. They were all on horses. Then on the side, he had a side wing. He had his most powerful men like on the side wings. Then he had a group in the back. So what he'd do, he'd attack from the sides, and then he'd draw all those men to the side, and he'd fight them from the side. And then what he'd do, the back men would catch the back flow that came around. He'd caught them on the backside, and then he'd send all his men that had the spears and rush in.
Well, that was pretty neat about the spears, too, because he learned that from his daddy.
Yeah.
Philip learned if he had a short spear.
Right.
Oh, they can come close.
Right.
If you have these long spears,
they couldn't get close.
They couldn't get close whatsoever.
What was it called? The phalanx? The long spears? I think it's called a phalanx.
I'm not sure what it was called.
But Philip and Alexander the Great went ahead and invented new technology to fight the empires that they
There's
were fighting.
one war they had where they had the carriage.
Well, that was Persia.
That was Persia.
The chariots.
The chariots. Alexander the Great used all his spearmen
To make a crack.
To make a crack. And when they passed through, they attacked them. They surrounded them and attacked them from the back end.
Well, that was one reason why Darius left, because he was running to it. They shot an arrow through his driver, and he jumped in the chariot and took off.
And took off, exactly.
But that's when he left his family and everything. And Alexander the Great, they stayed alive. He kept.
But
them
a lot
alive.
of those battles that he fought, you got to realize, a lot of the battles that he fought before they even were finished the battle, a lot of the ones that he was fighting against fled. They left. They wouldn't finish. They just left.
He was a great technician. Well, the thing was, he learned it from Aristotle. He learned that Aristotle taught him, when you look at a situation, you're supposed to adapt to your situation.
Well, see,
you're supposed to look at everything.
That makes a good point, because when he went to the Hazara River and fight the one Indian king said, "Look, I'm not going to fight you. I'm just going to pay."
Horus, I think his name was.
And the next one, he came to this river. And it was like a stare down, because the king of India was across and he was on the other side of the river. And this king had elephants. They trained elephants to fight.
Elephants for battle.
And see, that's what messed up the new 300 movie. They showed the Persians didn't know nothing about that. It was the India people that trained these elephants. Well, they all stayed on the side, and they're all the Indian people are on guard, because this is Alexander the Great. Yeah. But they think, well, we can go ahead and defeat them. We can go ahead and fight them. But Alexander the Great did something smart. He lined up all his men, and they just made noise every night. They went ahead and put down their guards. Alexander the Great took a league with him. They went to the other side, crossed over, and attacked the Indians, and they defeated the Indian king.
Yeah.
And that's when, at that time, the army was like, look, we want to go back home.
Yeah.
We've been here for 10 years.
Yeah.
And we just ready to go. Yeah. Which Alexander Great still had plans to invade India, but he moved back. So we get to the point where he decided, I want to go ahead and make Babylon my home. And this is going to be the last point. I'm going to have to tell something on air. Boogie was right. Boogie said, I don't think we're going to make it all the way through, but because Alexander the Great is such a great subject. You can talk about Alexander the Great forever.
But the thing is, God had. I like how much this book says right here.
He conquered more than any other king in a short span of time than any other king.
Even the Romans. The Romans were swift, and they didn't get it that fast.
They didn't conquer what he conquered.
As fast as he did. But the Bible prophesies, see, Alexander the Great, this legend has it that when his soldiers told him, we want to leave India and we want to go back home, we're tired, he cried on the rock saying, there's no more worlds for me to conquer. Well, the thing was, he was upset because his army was wanted to go home.
And they were faithful until then.
Yeah, but they had enough.
Oh, yeah.
They had enough. And
he was a driven man.
He went back, and see, that was another thing, too. A lot of people said, because we're about to get into his death, which we have a little bit of time left. We're going to dive quickly into it. When he died, he drank a lot of wine. He also drank some unmixed wine, they said, which was contaminated, which made him sick. Now, there is poisons that would last 2 weeks. It took him 2 weeks to die. But he went to Babylon, and he was starting to dress like the Persians. He was starting to act like the Persians. And everyone started wondering, wait a minute, why is he doing this? Why is he changing? He's changing Greek culture. Well, he got to Babylon. He was going to make Babylon the city where Nebuchadnezzar was.
The palace.
The palace. He was going to make that the capital. He was drinking, he was partying and all that, and then he got sick. It took him 2 weeks to die, but he died at the age of 33.
But this is the thing.
Move your mic a little closer so they could hear you, my brother.
But this is the thing, what you got to think about. Back in those days, they couldn't check vital signs. And I've read somewheres, it. Somewheres in there on his biography, I read this. There's a good chance that he was still alive when they buried him or whatever they did with him.
Oh, wow.
Okay, he could have been murdered at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because they had no way of checking vital signs. They had no way of telling if he was really dead or if he wasn't dead.
Wow.
So when they decided to bury his body, they said it took like 2 weeks for that body to really start decaying.
Well, they wanted to make sure he was dead, but they also buried him in the city in Egypt. Alexander.
Well, the thing was, after what happened was, we ain't have total time to go into detail about this, but what happened was, they asked him, who are going to be your successors? And he said, to the strongest.
To the strongest.
And what happened was, right after he died, and that was another part of Bible prophecy, because Daniel prophesied, because you notice he had 4 wings. Remember on the leopard, they had 4 wings.
And the 4 wings got cut off.
And 4, did they say have 4 heads?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that symbolized Alexander the Great's generals. And Daniel prophesied that his throne would not be given to his descendants. So what happens right after he died, his 4 generals started fighting.
They started fighting.
And one of his generals, and there was 4 of them, but the 2 most popular one was the Seleucian Empire, and that was Alexander the Great. One of the generals was called Seleucian. It was named after him, the Seleucian Empire. And the most famous, where Cleopatra came from, was
Let's go ahead and talk about that next week, because we got a lot. Yeah. We still got a lot of Greek history to go into, and unfortunately we're running out of time.
The Ptolemy Empire, the Ptolemy Kingdom.
Those are the 2 that fought. That continue to fight.
But the great empire, and look, that was one last point. It was so hard. Even Macedonia didn't even believe he died. They was like, they're just making rumors.
Right.
But Alexander the Great, and he died at a young age, which fulfilled prophecy of Daniel. We're going to continue on that next week, guys, because like I said, give you credit. You said we didn't think we'd get that far.
Well, watch. The one part we're going to get, remember when Daniel said the horn was broken? Remember it said that?
Right, the middle horn, right.
Yeah, and that's what happened. When he was in the great of his power, Daniel said that when the Holy Spirit showed him that he would be at the height of his power, he died. And he would be cut off.
Yeah.
So everything Daniel said.
That was all in the plan of God.
Yeah, it felt right. Everything Daniel said.
Yeah, because they looked at his books after he died. He had plans to take over India all the way into
Saudi Arabia,
Asia and Saudi Arabia, and all that.
Plans, so.
He had big plans.
All right, everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue on the Grecian Empire. Next week, we're going to talk about the 4 generals and the events leading up to the Roman Empire being influenced by Greece and taking over Greece. So, guys, until next week, for Brother Bo and Brother Anthony and myself, we thank y'all for listening. Once again, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the bell on Facebook to get all new episodes when they come out. Until next week, you be blessed, you be encouraged, and may God's face shine upon you.